Have you ever felt your faith weakening, just because you can't see what you believe? One afternoon with a light rain, I sat in a small coffee shop on the corner of the street. Outside, the rain was falling nonstop. The wind blew through the window, shaking the hanging potted plants. Next to me, a young girl was sitting with her head bowed, her hands turning the pages of the Bible. Her eyes were red, as if she had just cried. I heard her whisper, very softly, "God, I'm so tired. I want to see you, see a sign. Something to let me know that you're still here. Still listening to me, still loving me." And I understand, she is not alone in that prayer. Because there were times when I myself, and perhaps you too, have longed for the same thing. We often want to see before we dare to believe. We want evidence, answers, something concrete for our tired hearts to lean on. But it was in those darkest and most obscure moments that Jesus' words echoed like a gentle light in the darkness. Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. John 20:29. These words were not only for Thomas, the disciple who doubted the Lord's resurrection, but also for all of us today, people who are still trying to believe in the midst of so much uncertainty, still clinging to hope when everything seems silent. And perhaps it is precisely this not seeing and yet believing that is the most beautiful faith. Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. John 20:29. When Jesus said these words to Thomas, he did not scold him or belittle Thomas's doubts. Instead, he gently pointed to a deeper path of faith, a path of trust that does not require tangible evidence. Thomas was one of the 12 disciples. He loved Jesus with all his heart. But when he heard that Jesus had risen, he said, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were, I will not believe." Thomas needed to see to touch to have some proof to put his heart at ease. And then, 8 days later, Jesus appeared. There was no judgment. There was only understanding. Jesus invited Thomas to touch his hands, his side, and said, "Do not doubt, but believe." It is here that we see the great love of God. He knows that we are fragile, weak, and prone to doubt. He does not rebuke us when we are weak, but invites us to go further, deeper, to the point where faith does not need to see to believe, but believes because it knows that He is faithful. Believe when you do not see, a mature faith. Dear friend, in your journey of faith, there will be times when you see, when prayers are answered, when healings occur, when miracles come into your life. But there will also be long periods, very long periods, when you see nothing. No answers, no signs, just silence. That is the moment when you have only two choices, either let go or continue to believe. And if you choose to still believe, then it is in that moment of not seeing that your faith becomes the purest and strongest. A child needs to see the hands of his parents to dare to walk. But when he grows up, he knows that even if he cannot see them, those hands are still there, ready to support him at any time. That is maturity. And so is our faith. When we are young, we need miracles to believe. But when we grow up in our journey with God, we learn to believe without seeing, because we know that He is the one who never changes, who never leaves us. A little story, The Shoes by the Door. I once heard a story like this. There was an old lady who lived alone in a small house in the countryside. Every morning, the son who lives in the city still keeps the habit of sending home a new pair of shoes, leaving them outside the door. saying nothing because the old woman does not use the phone. Every day, she opens the door, sees the new shoes, and knows that her son is still healthy. Still thinking of her mother, she does not see her son's face, does not hear his voice, but is still sure that his love has never left. Then one morning, it rained heavily and there were no shoes. The old woman stood still for a while, then smiled. It must be raining too much today. The car cannot move. But I know, you still love me, even though I cannot see anything. Her faith, not based on a physical presence, but on a deep trust built over the years. And that is the kind of faith that Jesus is blessing in today's verse. Dark seasons of faith. Maybe you are going through a period when your prayers seem unanswered. You do not see God, not feeling Him, everything around you seems to be against you. Know that you are not alone. Even great people in the Bible like David, Joseph, Jeremiah also walked through the wilderness of silence. David cried out, "My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you silent?" Psalm 22:1. But in that silence, those people did not give up. They continued to believe, continued to walk, continued to hold onto God's promises. And then, the light finally came. Faith is keeping the fire burning in your heart, even when everything around you is out. When you do not see, do not hear, do not feel, but you still choose to believe, then you are keeping the fire of faith burning in the darkness. And that is extremely beautiful in God's eyes. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. He called it a blessing that is hard to come by, but incredibly precious. You carry that blessing within you. Every time you believe, even when your heart is weary, even when your tears are falling, even when you see no change. Where does faith come from? Faith does not come naturally. It comes from the word of the one who can be trusted. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Christ. Romans 10:17. If you find your faith is weak, don't blame yourself. Go back to God's word, read a little bit each day. Let it whisper into your heart. Like a little rain on dry ground, God's word will revive your faith. Dear friend, if today you are in a season of silence, of unanswered prayers, of long nights with no sign from heaven, know this, you are not walking alone. God is there, even when you don't see, don't hear, don't feel. He is still holding you with a love that never changes. True faith is not always strong, without doubt. True faith is still daring to whisper, "I believe in you," even when the voice is weak. The heart is trembling, the future is uncertain. And Jesus called that blessed. Blessed are those who don't see, and still believe. Blessed are you who keep a small flame in your heart, even when the winds of life blow. Blessed are you who still try to get up every day, even when sometimes you don't have the strength. Blessed are you who continue to trust in God, even when life has not given you any clear evidence. That faith, quiet, persistent, humble, is what pleases Him. And then one day, you will look back and realize God has never abandoned you. He has been there, in every moment, in every breath. He has held your hand through every pain, even when you did not see it. A gentle message for you. If you cannot see God today, keep believing. If your heart feels weak, come close to His word for support. And if you are tired, just rest in the arms of God, who still loves you as in the beginning. He knows you. He sees your tears. He holds you, believing, even when you do not see it. That is a quiet faith, but enough to move heaven.